And today I want to welcome our great speakers, and our basically topic that's about today goes down to the radical ownership, what it really means, what it means to make sure that we actually enable the teams, that we are the leaders we're following, and how to make it work. And for that very same purpose, we have chosen a very nice lineup of people, starting with Luboš. So Luboš, if you can come please on the stage, and again, welcome Luboš. Luboš is the CTO at Barclays, and basically he's one of the guys who knows how to make things work. We destroyed quite a lot of things and we built quite a lot of things, I guess, and we have plenty of stories to share. All together with Yarda, please. So welcome Yarda as well. Yarda is a VP of Atakama. Yarda has a pretty decent background with the a lot of companies, as far as I remember. And of course, we have our special guest from Krakow, Mikal. So please welcome Mikal. With Mikal, we have a unique story because we met together throughout the LinkedIn, because we know very well that we'll be running our next meetups in Poland, Krakow, and in Warsaw, and so on and so forth. So we somewhat met on accident. And I remember when we asked Michał to come over, he was saying like, this is the first time he's in Prague and whether we can find him a nice hotel. The answer is no hotel but beer. So I think we'll make it work. So thank you guys for making it work. And with no further ado, if you allow me, I will leave it really up to Luboš. And as you can see and you will witness, we are doing our best all together with the speakers to make sure that we don't talk theory, we don't talk bullshit. Sorry for this jargon. We really want to bring you the stories and the things that you will learn from. So without further ado, please, Luboš, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello.
Sure.
Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm Luboš. Thanks for the nice introduction, Marian. I'm Luboš. I work at Barclays, and I'm an addict. That used to be the way I introduced myself. I'm addicted to work. I'm no longer an addict, but today I want to share with you what ownership means to me, what it has meant to me. And the best way to do that is actually I want to walk you through my career. So, because I figured when I introduce myself, you can find me on LinkedIn. I call myself the DevOps evangelist. I could tell you my official job title, which is Enterprise Toolchain Director, Chief Technology Office at Barclays. That means a lot, right? Like, you know exactly what I do. Maybe if I tell you that I look after Jira, Confluence, Bitbucket, TeamCity, Nexus, Jenkins, Sonar, some of these things, that may start ringing a few bells. So that's roughly who I am. But without further ado, I will just tell you basically my Barclays story. And I will try to make it to those 10 minutes roughly. And then based on that, tell you what I believe enabling ownership is all about. What helped me to get from who I was when I joined the firm to my role right now. So I got a lot of help from designers from Marian's team. I don't take credit for these nice diagrams. My original version was really rubbish. But I tried to create this as a bit of a historical interview. So Luboš, when he joined, talking to someone, and hopefully it's going to be a little bit entertaining. So anyone here heard about IT Crowd, the old series? Mm-hmm. You remember the guy with the glasses? That used to be me. So when I joined this firm, you could put me in a basement, give me a task at a PC, and not force me to talk to people. I would be thrilled. That would be my sort of daily job. So that was really it. I spent around 6 years in a developer role, then developer lead role. And I kind of learned and realized that being a developer in a big firm sucks. I'm going to be honest, even though I'm still employed in this firm. Sucks to a sense that there are regulations, there are things that you have to comply with. And I made it my mission that I want to improve that experience. And that's kind of where my passion originally started for DevOps and developer experience. Fast forward to 2016. I won't call you out, Dirk, sorry, but I will. Your question I'm going to be getting to now. So back then I was leading a small team, around 8 people, and my manager back then resigned. And he was looking after around 80 people, but it was mostly a local regional line management role. And honestly speaking, I didn't really envy him his job. I felt like all you have to do is locally talk to leads of people, trying to help them with their career. but actually don't own anything functionally, have no functional accountability. And I felt like, well, that's not for me. Luckily because I'm here where I am, he nominated me and another peer to become his deputy. And I kind of said, okay, you know what? Let me think about it. And eventually this is wrong picture. This was a man, but doesn't matter. But the lead back then of Equities IT globally had this roughly interview with me. Hey, do you want to become Equities IT lead? And I said, yes, but I want to be a global DevOps lead. And I know retrospectively that guy have no idea what it meant. So he said, yeah, Luboš, sure, it's yours. And that's really how my functional role of DevOps evangelist at Barclays started. Fast forward a year, couple of changes. So back then I realized I was in a position where my US-based boss didn't get it either. And I felt like, okay, what am I doing here? I have some ambitions. I wanted to improve things at Barclays and he doesn't get it. What the hell am I doing here? And it was an interesting situation back then because that was maybe one of the times where leaving the firm crossed my mind, right? I had been in the firm for 16 years. You saw the first slide was 2009. Yes, 2009. At this time, I was really unhappy. I really considered, okay, I'm going to leave. This guy doesn't get it. I want to do things. He doesn't want to do it. But one of the things I did back then, I shared that with my local line manager back then, who happened to be the lead of the site, Barclays Prague. And things so happened that actually he didn't have a word with my boss's boss. And then boss's boss called me and told me, Luboš, I hear your concerns. Just FYI, if your boss ever resigns, I'm not going to try to make him stay in the firm, but his job is yours. Thanks, Eric. So that really literally how the discussion happened. And it was like, so that was kind of really like game changer for me because I realized, okay, I shouldn't resign. It's just a matter of time now. I just need to patiently wait. I know my boss's boss doesn't like my boss. So it's just a matter of time before he's gone. And it didn't take long. It's like 6 months and that kind of happened. Yeah, here kind of I try to like describe as we go through this. It's not really bragging, but trying to describe a little bit my influence, perhaps. Like if you talk about ownership, I try to describe in a sense of how many internal employees I was in my role back then influencing, right? So here I said I had one functional guy, like one guy in my functional role, just one guy based in US. He was running the tools. Locally, I was looking after 30 people, and my impact back then in terms of the tools I ran was around 1,000 people. So just a bit of indication. So here, this is what I was waiting for, right? So the boss called, hey, your boss resigns. As I promised you, job is yours. Do you take it? Yes. And then obviously, a couple more things I had to agree on, but it was probably the biggest change for me back then because now I became a global lead. There's way more responsibility, and yeah, that was fun. So functionally, I had around 5 people, locally 60-ish, impact the same. Here's also maybe first time I tried to do a bit of negotiation, almost like my first business case ever in my career. I tried to realize, well, it was a time of lots of hiring. Any one of you here in big corporations, there are times where we all hire and then we all stop hiring, right? So it was the first. Pretty much everyone was hiring everywhere I looked. And I was like, well, I should try to take a piece of this as well, right? So I basically talked to my boss back then, told him a bit of a business case. This is what I want to do. This is how it's going to improve developers' productivity, ROE. And he said, yes, more or less, right? So I got some AVPs back then and I got some roles opened and the fun continued. Roughly around 2019, before COVID. So the functional local line didn't change drastically. There was just some global reorgs that changed these numbers. I didn't really do anything more, but like there was one interesting point in my career back then here where if you think about it, I wasn't still in CTO back then, but what I was doing in markets, which is like one division at Barclays, was actually seen as an internal competition to what CTO does. So back then CTO ran all the tools I mentioned before, all the dev tools and stuff. And we basically ran our shadow copy of that. We have our own Jira because we thought better. We had our own Confluence, our own Nexus, our own TeamCity. And I was for a long time like in a bit of a tension with CTO. Like me as Czech, and hopefully I won't offend anyone Czech, kind of like this, right? At least, okay, I would say I like this. I like to have a central function I can blame for all the bad things, right? These guys, they don't know what they do. Like, I know better. Like, and it was like a very, very unprofessional, I would say, almost from me. But I didn't realize. I was like, we were still running the tool. It was fine. But I got a very influential feedback from that team's MD, basically back then, the lead of the entire division. He basically called me and told me, hey, Luboš, I don't really get it. I know what you mean, that this guy is leading a developer experience team without ever being a developer, which is nonsense. But at the same time, I don't know why you're so aggressive. And he mentioned something along those lines, and that was like a light bulb in my mind. So I was like, gee, he's right. I don't really act professionally here at all. And the reason why I share this story is because the very guy I used to be in tension with, later, 2 years after this event, after this feedback, so the one I was having all these fights with, he was the one who recommended me joining CTO later, right? So again, that part, I got a feedback. I changed my interaction with central CTO function, and that very guy who we hated each other guts, that relationship changed, and he was in the end, yeah, I think Luboš should join our CTO team. So this is roughly how it started. I started in CTO back 4 years, and I won't bore you with the rest since then. So I kind of consider this kind of peak of my career. I've been oscillating around that sort of peak, let's say, since my role obviously evolved. But the reason I share this story with you is that you understand a bit more the principles, the enablers or ingredients, you pick your word, that I believe are critical for enabling ownership, right? So radical ownership that Marian set the theme as, I really like, because it's very complex. It's not that there's a simple equation you fill in and you get the outcome. And I also like the composition of us as speakers here, because the story you hear from me and say my ingredients are, which are very specific to a corporation, to a big firm with 90,000 employees, globally distributed, and being in an offshore location, 1,400 people. And I think my sort of co-speakers after me, they will share you their perspective, and I really like the dynamics. It's a little bit different. But without further ado, these are my principles. And they will be very, I would say, soft skills based. So there won't be any sort of technical tips what to do. I believe they're kind of almost transcending IT. I don't think they're just IT. And I will talk about each of these. So be open-minded. So that's number one for me personally, because it means you never close any feedback getting to you. So this in my mind means anyone, anytime sharing anything with you, you don't have to agree with everything everyone ever said about you, but accepting it makes a big difference because you don't shut the door. So this guy or this lady, whoever, made the effort to tell you something about the way you behave, the way you work. They put the effort in. If you don't shut the door, you'll at some point get something useful out of them, right? And I got many, many of these examples. One would be the one that I said before, that I got a call from the global lead, and I didn't just send me off. I said, hey, this is bullshit. Yeah, I actually instantly in my mind realized he's right. Actually, I changed my behavior, and as a result, I was invited to become part of CTO. Empathy, again, very, very basic soft skill, but like I heard many times in my mentoring coaching sessions, well, Luboš, I'm not good at empathy. And I get it, like it's maybe not natural to everyone, but it's like any other soft skill. It can be taught. You can learn yourself. So it's very important. Like it's, again, one story, a kind of a story. I'm not sure if everyone ever had it here, but I had this feeling in early of my career that the very senior managers are kind of unreal, or like not human. In a sense. It's like I feel like they're the topics, the decisions, the ownership, the accountability they have. I don't think I could ever live with that. I don't think I could fall asleep at night just knowing I'm responsible for tens of thousands of whatever it is, right? So empathy just helped getting closer, right? Getting through my career, getting closer to everyone else. And it's kind of closely related to next one I want to stop to this one now. Know your network, right? So it's this almost, in my mind, in a corporation, maybe potential number one. And here I will just try to explain this in a posing question. So how many of you, if I give you a piece of paper right now and a pen, would be able to write down your current manager's objectives or goals for this year? Raise your hand who feels confident enough. Light force, maybe 25% roughly. I didn't do the math, but so think about this. Like it's know your network in my mind means, hope you've seen these pictures. You have like yourself in the middle, You have the first circle, which is like typically your boss, your directs, if you have any, your peers. And knowing that layer means knowing them either personally, but also what is their main objective, right? Obviously, if you don't know your boss's objectives, it's going to be hard for you to grow your career in your current team because you're doing something, but you actually don't know how your work contributes to his or her objectives, right? So it's super important. And it's, in my mind, like a key ingredient in a big firm especially, right? And the farther you go, so the second circle, the deeper you can go, and the longer you can keep the information in your head, the better you're equipped, I would say, in a corporation. So going back this one, I skipped personal brand. Again, it's something I believe I'll blame a little bit Czechs. Hopefully all Czechs here won't get offended. I'm Czech myself, so hopefully I can say things about Czechs. I don't think we're good at this. I don't think we're good in selling ourselves or selling our teams. And maybe it's a little bit more generic potentially to Slavics, so hopefully I won't offend any Slavics in general. But I personally was never taught this. What does it mean? Does it mean I send email every single day what my team has accomplished? No. So there's an art about this, right? And there's like many, many ways you can sell, right? And it's, in my mind, the best ways is actually these subtle messages. It's like you just put a note out there. You're in a big meeting, there's lots of arguments, and just put hey, by the way, guys, we sorted this 5 years back. Just ping me if you want to chat. And that usually does the trick. It's like I didn't do a big selling deck. I just mentioned something that someone realized, well, Luboš maybe knows, so I will approach him offline. And it wasn't, again, about me. It was about like the team, obviously, right? So that's it. I learned a set of ideas. Again, it's something that I believe helped me in my career. There was the one idea I tried to show in the previous diagram. I showed my boss, hey, give me 2 roles. I will deliver you something. And have a career chat. It may sound obvious, but maybe not. Like it's whoever is the decision maker and potentially has an influence about your current role and career, wherever you are. If they don't actually know you have some aspirations, it's going to be not impossible, but I believe harder to acquire some ownership, whether for you or for your team. So I would say, don't be afraid to speak up. Just say, hey, Luboš or whatever, whoever is your boss, I feel like I want to grow. Can you help me? It's just that open chat can have an influence in your manager's mind. He will know, okay, this guy actually wants to grow. I may potentially help him, especially if you have that potential. And there are some other supporting principles. So I'll just run through them very quickly. Innovate, be patient. Again, it's the be patient and time. Attempt to be fun a little bit there. Yeah, the time machine. It's this is really about that thing I mentioned to you before, where at times it's just about the time when you do stuff, right? So I had to be patient. I had to wait for my boss to resign, but I also know that it was the right time. I was asking for the extra roles. If I asked 6 months later, when there was a global hire freeze, we couldn't hire anyone, my boss would just have to say, no, sorry, Luboš, you cannot have any new role. And to conclude my speech, Marianne asked us kindly to try to pick one takeaway. So I'll pick one takeaway from my speech. If there's one thing I would like you to remember what I spoke about, I'll go back to my principle number 1, be open-minded. And I will share another story. And that's actually the very first year when I was at Barclays. And again, if I look at the whole journey, that definitely also had an influence. When I joined Barclays, one of my biggest dev areas wasn't lack of business knowledge, but actually my level of English. I could somewhat speak. I couldn't understand, mostly US accent. Again, any native British accents, apologize, but my interview was tough. I had 2 guys in the interview. One was called Ian, he was Irish. Another was, Owen, he was Irish. Then I had Ian from London. And I could understand like 30% what they were talking about. It was like, testing, yes, testing is important. It was like, and they still hired me. I have no idea how, but like it so happened, they hired me. But the funny piece was the Ian guy, the London guy, he became my secret English grammar Nazi, whatever you call it, like my grammar buddy. But the beginning, I vividly remember, he was like, hey, Luboš, by the way, in a very polite, British, typical way, hey, Luboš, by the way, this is not the way you say this. I know what you went, but this is how you say it. And I'm really sorry, I just noticed I couldn't resist. I was like, yeah, this is great. Please continue doing this. And it's like, so he ever since bombarded me daily with English. Luboš, I heard today you said this. It was like an essay every single day, right? And one I will share and I will conclude the speech there. I still remember it was like, at some point it was a bit more like casual chat, and I shared with him, yeah, yesterday was a great evening. I enjoyed my wife. And he was like, Luboš, I think you meant to say you enjoyed time with your wife, unless you wanted to overshare a little bit. I was like, so I had to Google Translate what the hell I said. I was like, oh, yes, thanks. Yeah, you're right. Okay, with that said, be open-minded is my one takeaway, and thank you for your time. Good.
Thank you, Luboš. Amazing, perfect. Now, no further ado, let's move to another slide that a bunch of networks that we have. And I guess I just want to make sure, Luboš, that we move with your slides, right? Okay. And then moving over to Yarda. So Yarda is his stopwatch. So let's see if we can make it in 15 minutes. So once again, welcome, Yarda.
Yeah, thank you. And welcome. Okay, can you hear me? Okay, good. So yeah, as Marian said, like I've worked for quite a few companies. I actually tried to put all the logos on this slide. So I asked Gemini in Google Docs, to edit, and it failed miserably. And then I never had time to edit manually because you don't realize it's quite a task to grab proper logos on the web and upload them somewhere from like over half a dozen companies. so yeah. Short intro, I graduated in computer science. I started working during university already as a developer. My first paying job was in Power Builder. You probably don't know what it is. Then I spent a couple of years in IBM research after graduation. Then I thought it was awesome job for a couple of first years because we were doing prototypes and playing with cool technology, no deadlines. We wrote patents and articles, but then I thought they will fire us at some point. This is not working because there was a huge division between research and development in IBM. So then I jumped to a completely different into trenches. So I worked in Ariba as a professional services consultant on customer sites, traveling around Europe, which was, I would say, if you're early in your career, that's probably best thing you can do because it's like changing job every couple of months and you see different culture, different customers, different environment. So it was kind of great 3 years, but I was flying every week. So since then, I don't enjoy flying anywhere for vacation. It's like I rather travel by car. And yeah, then big kind of learning for me was good data, and I got a couple of former colleagues here, sitting around. So good data, where we were building a SaaS platform, BI platform in the cloud, and we launched in 2008, which was fairly early on AWS. So here I'm getting to first, radical ownership change, in the traditional software engineering. When I started, after graduation, you would have typical roles like engineering, then or development, then QA, then operations and support, all separate roles. And with kind of movement to SaaS, the idea of DevOps, came about. So we at Good Data, we kind of adopted that quite early, 2011, and really adopted it to the end, no things like that we would be saying we have engineering and that we have DevOps, which is kind of bullshit, So we really went all into DevOps, and that essentially expanded the ownership of the engineering team because teams had to own the code they write in production. It had very great impact on the quality because before that, we would have our operations team, alerts always overflowing because developer always thinks, this could go wrong, so I will write an alert, I will trigger an exception on that. But then when you are in operations and it wakes you up in the middle of the night, you need to kind of triage what's really important, what's not. So this migration helped us to kind of clean this up and really wake up people for things for which really mattered. And so this was kind of first big change, I would say. And then kind of it continues, and that's kind of the narrative which I will try to make. Then with overall migration to agile. You get the typical product trios, engineering, PM, UX. It looks good on paper, like usually you hear about those triads, and all that stuff. The problem is that most of the companies are organized functionally. So like design reports to the design team, PMs report to the PM team, and engineering is separate. And it's kind of a lottery, right? Like sometimes you have a great designer, great PM, sometimes you don't, right? The issue is like who has the biggest skin in the game, because, and my answer is it's engineering, because in this trio, you have engineering leader, you have designer, you have PM, but the engineering leader is representing the whole team. So if things go wrong, kind of like disproportionately you're affected, or in your team, if the company doesn't do well, or if kind of the product is not doing well. You keep hearing all these narratives about engineering productivity and all that stuff. But many times the issue is that the engineering team was working for 6 months on a bad idea, which afterwards, you realize, yeah, we cannot sell it, or it, customers don't like it. So what about it? And yeah, kind of like, yeah, you can maybe get rid of one PM, but sometimes even it's not, like there is no blame, right? So I think best protection, and that goes to the ownership for the engineering leader, is to understand the product, know the customers, so that that engineering leader is not taking over the job from PM, but it's more like they can partner more together. So it's not like engineering leader and engineering team blindly listening to what PM has to say, or like, then saying like if it becomes unusable, saying, yeah, designer, did a bad job, but kind of like understanding how people will use it, how what customers need, so then they can help to spot the errors and fix them as they go together as a team. So that's kind of, I think, the important part, like at Cisco, which was a cybersecurity, work company, it was very engineering focused. Like I had a team there of like 80 people. We had one PM. So obviously it was very engineering driven, because most of stuff we did were algorithms, like detecting threats, in networks and in customer environments. So it was a lot about machine learning, about threat knowledge, threat landscape knowledge. So we had one PM. His role was mostly like outbound PM, so talking to customers and making sure our product gets integrated into the Cisco sales machine, in terms of like pricing, packaging, support, and all that stuff. And we worked together on the strategy, but the details of the features we had to figure out as engineering team, right? So to me, it's like engineering should not be just tool pushers, and kind of like blindly do what they are told. They need to understand why and for who they are doing that, and that becomes part of the ownership. And next one, and I think it's big hype around AI. How we work with that at Ataccama is we try it out. So kind of the policy which we are establishing, we have like an expedited pilot program for trying new tools, because like every week there is a new tool and it's better than all the others on the market. So we have like expedited trial pilot where we get it vetted by the security team, reviewed if it's okay, but it takes roughly 1 or 2 weeks. And then we run a small pilot with evaluation criteria. And the overall policy for which we aim is like each developer can pick 2 tools for AI coding assistance, and each can pick 2 different, right, from the pool which we finally approve after the pilot. And kind of like what we observe and it's really evolving very quickly. Like half a year ago, situation was different, but now with the most recent tools, such as AMP Code or Claude Code, really it's making a big difference. And so this is kind of a prediction here that we expect, kind of based on what we learned, that the engineering teams will be much smaller. Like typically in a Scrum team, you would have like 5 to 7 people, and then PM design. We expect it might be like, I don't know, down to 3, 4 people doing actually like being software engineers, and then having like designer PM together or someone like that, right? Because with kind of like what's what's changing very quickly is the development of code, or for example designs, like designing with Lovable or other tools. It becomes much faster than what took weeks or even months sometimes in the past. Now you can really do it in days, and we already kind of experiment with kind of like hackathons, but not like once in a time, but like really like, okay, let's pick this feature from the backlog, get everyone together in one room, because like teams are distributed. So get everyone in one room, and then they like do it like 80% of it in one day, and then they kind of finish the rest later, right, during the regular sprint. So it's really changing the dynamics. And again, what it means for engineering leaders and for engineers, there is going to be a gap, because already today it's very hard to hire like great business-minded PMs on the Czech market, right? So at Ataccama, we resorted to hiring more senior PMs, for example, in London, because that's kind of where we can get the right mix of technical skill and business acumen. Now, with that gap already today, if we realize that we will probably like split the engineering teams in half and we need to double the number of PMs, there are not enough PMs on the market. So the best advice for engineering leaders and engineers, like senior engineers or technical leaders on the engineering side, is become more interdisciplinary, learn more of the like product management, design skills, and again, understand your customers, know what you are doing and for who, because this will allow you to kind of like move forward in this world, because otherwise it's going to be bottleneck. The bottleneck is not going to be produce something quickly. The bottleneck is going to be knowing what to produce, like what should we be doing in the first place. So that's, and I think that's all. So thank you.
Thank you. Big applause for Yarda. And less than 12 minutes. Okay, so we made it. We owe you a beer. And now moving to you, Mikal. So again, 1 round of applause for Mikal, and looking forward for you gonna bring on the table.
You take. Can I get the clicker? You stole my equipment. Hey, so my name is Michał Porzożyński. I came here from Krakow today to talk to all of you. Main excuse was that it's my first visit here in Prague, amazing city. Today I'll be talking about 5 ingredients of radical ownership at scale. It's Gemini who came up with that title. So, few things about myself, just to kind of give you a context for that talk that I will not finish in 15 minutes. There is no way. I was practicing in a train. So I started my journey in IT, in software development 20 years ago. And 18 years ago, I became a manager for the first time. So there was someone really smart basically making a decision that I should not write a production code anymore. There were some mistakes, obviously. And then for the last 16 years, I worked solely for the US-based companies. Today I'm VP of Software Engineering at BlackLine. And I just wanted to kind of give you that background about myself, because really my entire speech, yes, better. My entire speech is kind of based on that specific context. For the last 16 years, I was building organizations or entire sites for companies with headquarters in US, basically. So 5 ingredients of radical ownership, and I will do my best to give you specific examples what I mean by all of that stuff. So how do we start building organizations? Basically, we hire great engineers and we mix them up with the people from headquarters. And it is in literature, it is often called like a staff augmentation model. Basically, a model where you have a Scrum team, but you have people in different time zones. And this is a kind of great way how we can transfer the knowledge from headquarters to basically us, great engineers in Central Europe. Unfortunately, what I have seen and what I see actually right now, I joined BlackLine just a few months ago, and I got like actually a big engineering organization. I don't have people in Central Europe, but I have people in UK and India. And what they did, basically, on top of like 40 people in UK, they hired 40 people in India. We have now, I don't know, 10 or 11 Scrum teams, all mixed. So all of those people basically are sitting all day long, talking to each other via Microsoft Teams or whatever technology we use. So of course I'm fixing that now, but really my advice here is that you need to break that geo-dependency as quickly as possible. And you would be surprised how quickly you can do it. Like my record, personal record at Aptio, my previous company, was that we took over the entire product in 3 months since we hired first engineer. And you know, it's kind of uncomfortable, yes, but the reality is that the longer you wait, the reality is that this learning curve is not improving. Basically, people are staying in this comfort zone, and those people in India do not kind of learn enough because they got all of those responses from the people in UK, and people in UK are just like, you know, whining that those people in India do not learn. So we are fixing that. That's the first advice from my side. The next advice is kind of related to one of my employers. I was working for a couple of years for a company named Atakama. It's a CDN company. They invented basically edge computing. Great company, great engineering culture. They decided to start operations in Poland, in Krakow, like 15 years ago, very similar to Barclays, right? More or less. And what the leadership team decided is that every executive from the engineering organization will be able to just decide by themselves what they want to do in Krakow. And when I was there, I was leaving, I think, in 2021 or something like that. Akamai in Krakow had around 350 engineers, awesome people, around 30 Scrum teams, and around 25 engineering managers. But unfortunately, what happened in that organization, in that specific organization, is that almost all of those engineering managers were reporting outside of local structures. So basically, those great engineers that we hired, those great managers that we hired, were not able to grow. Like, you know, they over time, they got a better and better understanding of the product they were working on, but they were just like a small team for much larger organization. So they had like no impact on the roadmap, no impact on processes, really. So basically they maybe were promoted to a senior manager, maybe were promoted to staff engineers, but that was basically it. One option how potentially that can be solved is by putting the location strategy in writing. Location strategy is a very simple document that states that this product is built in that location and that product is built in a different location. And that it sounds easy, but it doesn't exist in majority of the companies. And of course, it's not your responsibility to put that in writing, because as a senior developer or a manager, if you put that in writing, it doesn't matter. But what you need to do, you need to talk to your leaders. You really need to enforce that, because reality is that no one will do that for you. There are VPs and directors in headquarters. They run this business, they run those organizations. When they will move operations to Poland or Czechia or whatever, somewhere here in Central Europe, basically their own job will be at risk. That is why it's people on the level of CTO, like C-level people, need to make that specific call. Third advice from my side about radical ownership is really the engineering operational excellence. When we are successful in the second point, basically we already have those nice engineering structures locally, let's say here in Prague. What happens is that this knowledge about our systems, the knowledge about product that we support, disappears in other regions. That means that basically we here, maybe in Prague, maybe in Krakow, we need to take over the on-call. We need to take over everything about running our software in production. But that's actually great. Operational excellence is probably the only thing that is entirely in our hands, right? How we do our observability, what are the alerts, how our dashboard looks like, what is the incident response process, all of that stuff, how quickly we can deploy to production, how many times a day, all of that stuff, totally in our hands. Nothing improves operational excellence than having all of you on the 24/7 on-call, especially after a couple of 2 a.m. calls, after great parties. That's very painful, but that helps a lot. You need to do it. Jaroslav was talking about product people, and I totally agree that there is not enough of them on the market. In my opinion, role of a product manager is the most difficult role in our entire business. Those people need to be able to go to market, do the research, talk to customers, connect the dots, came up with the need, somehow translate that need into a product, translate product to requirements, talk to us, talk to sales, talk to pricing team, like all of that stuff. It's all on them. So probably one of the reasons why it is difficult to find people, good product leaders in countries here in Central Europe is that, it is very difficult. But the second reason is that, let's take the step back. When those companies, like those big US or UK-based companies came to our region around 25 years ago, maybe, roughly, right? And basically how we started was this kind of a staff augmentation model. And then we started building those kind of a bit bigger organizations. We started hiring managers and maybe, senior managers, whatever. We built our structures. Then we started hiring BAs. Then the agile movement happened. So we rebranded BAs into product owners, but basically it was the same job in majority of cases. And only around maybe 10 years ago, we realistically started looking for good product managers, not internal product managers, or however we want to call them. Basically, those people that need to do the market research and define the product for us. So we, as engineering leaders, we had 25 years to grow. Product team had maybe 10 at best. I don't have a great advice here, besides the fact that we do need those product people. It's very hard to say that we own things end to end if majority of important decisions when it comes to the product itself are made basically somewhere else. How I did that at my previous company, at Aptio, basically we started looking for product people even before we started looking for engineers. And the reason behind it is that onboarding of product people is much, much longer and much more difficult than to onboard developers. And last, make your customer-facing teams your best friends. But let me maybe start this point with something different. I think that engineers in United States and UK are actually different than engineers in Central Europe. And we have many advantages in majority, not majority, I don't want to generalize, but in many cases, we write better code. We are better at algorithms and all of that stuff. But UK and US people are better in delivering the value to customer faster, just like that. Maybe their code is not perfect. Often it's not. Sorry to say that, but that's sometimes the case. But maybe because of their education system, maybe because of, the fact that they have this, mature product manager sitting 2 desks away from them. Maybe because when you look at the job postings from great American software companies, you will never notice there a job posting for a BA, because majority of modern organizations are trying to remove this kind of artificial layer of translation between what product wants and what engineers needs to develop. What we are now trying to do is to have you, engineers and managers, basically talk directly to those high-level product people and try to groom things together to get that best possible understanding of how the product is used. Like the last anecdote from my side from today, in my previous organization, I was head of engineering for a product called Target Process. Never mind what that was. But one thing about Target Process that was really cool is it was that this product was extremely flexible. Like we could customize everything there, like literally everything. And I was running workshops in Krakow. We gathered like all of our product managers and pre-sales and implementation teams, like all of them, basically to figure out the roadmap for the next 18 months. And I was in a group in this pre-sales person from Netherlands. And at some point of time, he showed me a demo of my own product that he's showing to customers like a couple of times every single day. And I was like, fuck me, like, is that really my product? It even looks different. And back then I realized that what we develop as engineering teams is very often not how customers at the end of the day use our product, especially when the product gets more and more advanced, more mature. You add all of those options to configure it. It's flexible and whatever. So my advice, the last, to kind of get that radical ownership for your big engineering teams, is that you need to be like really best friends with the customer-facing teams, and especially three of them. First of all, support, that's obvious, right? Because they know what doesn't work, and we often do that. But be friends with pre-sales and professional services, because they really know how it works. And that knowledge really helps you, engineers, to basically build better software. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you. So we are coming to an end, and thank you, Michał, once again for making it work all together. Once again, I want to make sure that we have the right people on the spot. So once again, Mikal, Yarda, Luboš, if you can come over here, just to thank you. And again, big round of applause for all the guys to making it work for us. Thank you, guys. We'll have plenty of Q&As, of course, and I think there is there will be a Slido, hopefully, and we can cover it later on. Nevertheless, I want to invite you to our next meetup, which will be about stop hiring newcomers and start growing leaders at Pure Storage. This is the very same thing that we want to cover, and the purpose of that is to make sure that we actually understand that it's far better to grow our own leaders from inside as opposed to just hiring people externally, because usually you know how it goes. And before we, Amy will help us to basically find the right, find the right Slido. Going 3, 2, 1. Yeah. So I think this is the code, right? And okay, so I'll leave the code. And in the meantime, please, again, thank you for the guys to opening their stories. There is one thing that I want to say out loud, and that's basically what Mikal highlighted to some degree with all the guys together, which is the very reason why we are running these meetups for all of us here in Central Europe, is that currently my guess is that we are missing 2 basic elements to catch up with, the talent in the UK, US, and basically Bay Area. And these are the 2 elements. The first element is, again, ownership, which is if we don't have the ownership and we just talk code, sorry, nobody's going to listen to you. And this is, by the way, my own experience, because I was a principal architect in Silicon Valley for a couple of years. I thought that I would blast the world But as I was the guy just talking, you know, Kubernetes and microservices, nobody really understood me. You know what I mean? If you don't talk business and money, yeah, you're lost. And I lost it. The other thing and the other element that I wanted to open, and we go back, of course, to the questions, is besides ownership, again, being able to talk money. So if you are not capable to do so, and if you are not capable to talk return of investment or why I want to move to microservices or upgrade certain architecture, then basically nobody's going to hear you. Either you talk return of investment or you talk cost of delay, whatever comes, and you turn it into money, into dollars. Otherwise, Luboš will not hear you. That's the truth of things. So before moving on, what I just wrote down, and thank you again, guys, for making it work. We had a great talk, you know, going from basically Mikal. What I liked very much was the element of operational excellence. In other words, us as technology leaders, we talk it away of eat your own dog food. Having said that, make sure that you are the one who does the full support, who is part of the you know, 24/7 and so on and so forth. That's very much helpful. I really like Yarda's approach. Yarda was talking very much and openly about one of the things, and I want to make sure that you understood it. That's something about similar to the role that we see that is occurring more and more often. That role is called CTPO. It's not just a Chief Technology Officer or Chief Product Officer. These are the both roles combined together. And believe me, more and more often we will hear about something similar on our, I would say, leadership level. So now we talk about engineering managers, but get used to a term of PM, meaning product engineering manager, because that's something that's gonna come for us. And again, if you don't understand the business and you don't see the customer behind, then you lost it basically. And with Luboš, what I really liked was the story about learning English. So that was very fantastic. And to me, this is something that I really regard as some sort of a radical ownership as well, because there are always two options. Either you lose it and you are upset about someone coming to you and saying like, you know, please get better in your English, or you just accept the feedback and you make sure that it works for you. And for example, me myself, in front of you, I know that I'm not a perfect speaker. I'm not a public speaker. I'm still the introvert person. And for me, this is a great example of the radical ownership as well, of being able to, for example, getting better and better, standing in front of you, making sure that we move forward. So that's something that I really want you to remember, that it's in our hands and we are capable to move things forward. So thank you for that. So moving back to the questions. So there is a question about, there is more products than there are people who can truly be trusted with. What criteria must a person meet to be trusted with a serious responsibilities? Okay, do you guys have some sort of a meaningful answer on this one? Can you come closer, please? I do have an answer on that, but I will just leave it open for you. What do you say, Luboš?
I would pick my two first things I mentioned, right? So the be open-minded, think that, and empathy. Like, if imagine you're the guy who makes the decision, so why should that guy choose you? Right? Let us think, like, you know, you need to be. All of these decisions in the end are, because now obviously, if you're becoming engineering leader, you're going to be in that position as well. So you will need to make the right call, and there's going to be things, the way you interact with others, you know, everything else. And that's more generic, you know, how can you, so whatever role you have now, you can be a developer, you can be a BA, you can be any of the roles you'll be heard. If you show potential, if you do actually more than that, than just a developer, if you actually step potential informally in a product manager role, for example, then, and there happens to be an opening, then that may be you, right? That's my answer.
Perfect. Thank you, Luboš. And I think I fully agree with that explanation. To me, for example, I would react the way that if you want to basically declare and go for your product and convincing someone about entering the product, I would answer it very simplistic way, which is like, you know, try to go with the same risk and same level of responsibility, then you convince the other person that you are the right one to make it serious. Okay. The next question maybe for you, Yarda. Some of you have mentioned there is a US, UK, people at different levels. So different levels. So if you can elaborate on this one, maybe Mikal, you have a better experience on this piece. Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely start here. So, like again, as I mentioned, product is difficult. Like product management is difficult, but not only with that specific role, the kind of a product management discipline is kind of difficult to grasp. But what is also difficult is that those people basically need to learn the domain. And realistically, like even in companies like Barclays, let's say, or my own company, BlackLine, those are companies that are on the market for tens of years. And they have employees that basically are there for tens of those years. And they were able to kind of grasp that domain knowledge. That is why, like still, majority of times, we have better product managers in UK or in US only because of that. It's not only about the discipline of the product management itself, but also about kind of getting the domain knowledge, which is kind of difficult and it requires time.
Yeah, I would add that in many areas, kind of like the product managers are former practitioners in the area, right? So they did that work for some time. For example, in cybersecurity, it would be like incident responders, right? Would be kind of like turning into product managers for incident response products because they knew what they needed as users, right?
Thank you with this one. Okay, the other one, how to promote software engineers to product engineers. My counter question would be very simple. So what was the last time you talked with your customer? I'm not sure whether you want to say something more about it.
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. It's kind of like, for example, like I laid out some operating principles for my teams, and that's one of them. Like I asked them, how often do you talk to the customer, right? And I would say just, like, it's really different. Like if you're in a startup, it's kind of natural. Like that's what people in startups, small startups do, because like everyone wears many hats. So sometimes you don't even have a distinction between like product management and design and engineering. Many startups are like CEO or CTO develop most of the code initially, right? So kind of like that's natural. But as the organizations grow and kind of like the roles become more separated, then it's kind of like, yeah, if that delineation becomes too clear and everyone, is in his or her own swim lane, then it stops working. So people need to be more interdisciplinary overall.
Perfect. There is a still question for you, Yarda, which is like, you were saying engineering only the results. On the other hand, we need strong product leaders. Where are we? And Michał said we need strong product leaders and be a real product owners. So who should be the owner in the end of the day? Like I guess it comes down to the question of the triad and the trio, like who's owning the results and the responsibility, right? So how can you elaborate on this one?
Well, I just said that kind of like, of course, the whole trio owns it together. But if it doesn't go well, the engineering has more skin in the game because like it's the team plus the engineering manager typically. So that's more like you better be master of your own destiny and steer it actively, not to be kind of a victim of bad decisions of someone else, right? So to me, it's so that's you essentially need to. If you see if it's not working well, you need to reach out for more responsibility in order to help your team and yourself, right?
Maybe I'll just add one more thing here. It's like I truly believe that there is a strong distinction between product and engineering. Like the clearly product team owns the market fit. This is their responsibility. They need to do the research. They need to talk to customers, all of that stuff. We will not do it. Like, don't get me wrong. Like we, as engineering leaders or senior engineers, whatever, we cannot do that. It's like a full-time job of its own. So they own it. We own deliver at the end of the day. But I think what Jaroslav was saying here during his talk is that, and I mentioned that as well, is that we do need to kind of get rid of that artificial translation layer, BAs, POs, whatever you want to call it, because engineers really need to start getting this very deep understanding of how the product works and how the requirements are being built.
Yep. Perfect. Yeah.
So I know, okay, I'll take this one as well, but like, I still want to go back to the product discussion as well. I really like you both kind of stressed that. I didn't touch that in my slides at all. I was talking mostly about soft skills, but all the things that the guys mentioned was funny for me to listen because they apply internally as well. I'm internally like a product owner and actually a product manager as well. So for internal products, the products happen to be products used by developers. I need to know the customer. For me, a customer is internal developer. So kind of everything you said is spot on. Like, it's been the very thing that I believe also helped me in my career because I was a developer. I came to a team that was called Developer Experience that was led by people who've never been developers. And I found that like, it doesn't make sense. How can you be responsible for developer experience, but we never did it, right? So if you're an engineering role, everything that the guy said, absolutely, that's how you kind of grow into that. Like, and it can be a external-facing, customer-facing product, internal-facing product, doesn't matter. But still, everything you said makes the difference. Know your customer, to be able to articulate their challenges, you're best placed. And I'll take this question now straight away. More effort put into it. Right. Okay, more effort you put into your personal brand, more you prove you are capable, more people from your network start misusing your knowledge time, how to balance. Good point. I would say you need to be smart, right? So you can't possibly be a completely open, fully open book with every single one in the firm. Like, but at the same time, integrity is important. So you shouldn't be lying, of course, either, right? So it's being smart means, if I go back to know your network, so find who are the important people in your network right now you believe you need to get closer with. Is there someone potentially either your boss or peer, or as I call them, uncle or auntie in the org? That's your boss's peer. And basically be smart. Like obviously you will make things wrong. You may potentially share something and then realize, oh, maybe I shouldn't have shared. That's not like, it's not tactical, but but you can play with it. It's the art of who do I share and what and when. Right? It can be actually a good relationship booster. If you share something, that's actually very important. You realize this guy can really misuse this. So at times you take the risk, right? And if the risk pays off, okay, you can really trust that person. Now they know a secret, whatever it is. So it's, just be smart. Just learn who you talk to and then try to find the best balance.
Thank you. And if I may, we move to the very last question, which is if you can all answer, like, what's your next career goal, gonna achieve it, and why you have basically chosen this goal to move forward in terms of the ownership. So I think, Yarda, you can start first.
Is that the question regarding next career goal or which one? Okay. Yeah, to be honest, I've never thought about like this way, like what's my next step on the ladder or whatever. For me, always the driving force was, do I have the influence over things which I do care about? So that's what drove me, like in my history. So because like sometimes you're on a level where you cannot influence things, so kind of like you start kind of like like activity and kind of like talking about that, and then kind of like sometimes you grow naturally with that because like you take that responsibility or are allowed to. And so that's what like always drove me, so not thinking about where or I would say actually like I enjoy certain level, because like when you grow too much high, like and I don't mean like VP level at Ataccama, it's a small company still, but if you're like VP or SVP at companies like Cisco or Microsoft, you cannot do the real work, like you cannot touch the product anymore, so I wouldn't probably enjoy that. But that's, for example, like I think like Ataccama is exactly the right size for me because I am still part of the strategic discussions. I can influence the company strategy and product strategy, and that's what I enjoy, right? So yeah, it's about this, for me.
I actually have a very similar answer. I'm kind of fulfilled. I'm a VP of engineering in a publicly traded company from United States, and I report to CTO, and I lead teams across the globe, and it's cool. The size of the company actually matters a lot with those executive positions, because as Jaroslav mentioned, at some point of time, if the organization is really big, you lose contact with the reality. That's the case. And me being where I am right now gives me this opportunity to make strategic decisions together with my product counterparts and my CTO and I know sales organization or whatever. But at the same time, I can kind of talk to every single engineer in my organization, and I know them by name, and I like it a lot. So I don't want to go anywhere else. This is what I want to say.
So I don't want to turn this to a flame war between startups and corporations, but I couldn't resist. So what we always used to say is like it's so easy to achieve things at startup, so much harder to achieve stuff at a corporation, and that rewarding feeling is I think what kept me in this firm, to be honest, right? Because it's like I can always do a POC, I can always just get stuff done, but when you get it through all the regulations, when you're not actually putting your big company at risk, with regulators, that gives different feeling. But again, thinking against startups, I've been a startup myself in the past, and for me personally, it's kind of unfortunately similar, or maybe I don't know. I had at times in the past some sort of goals. Big one was really get to CTO. It's at some point, that's true. I wanted to get to CTO, wanted to be in a global role at Barclays to be able to influence. So I would say last 4 years I'm there. I'm still oscillating. My role is oscillating. But the main thing is what Yarda mentioned in the beginning that still drives me, and I don't want to lose that, is the passion, right? Like what I became passionate about 10 years back was developer experience, and I haven't lost that. That's still there. So even though I know not maybe ultimately owning everything there is to own, which is actually good because I need to keep my sanity fine, it's being close to the space. So I'm in the space. I'll see what future holds. I won't be against any potential growth, but I don't have a concrete career goal per se. That's my summary.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. So we will answer the rest of the questions off-site. Sorry for that. Of course, there will be plenty of networking that we can do. So moving to an end, and thank you very much once again.